So, welcome to the Black Accents Club podcast, Dion. I appreciate you coming through.
Thank you for the invite.
Let's just start off with you introducing yourself.
Okay, so I'm Dion the Creative. If you've known me before, Dion the Creative, please just call me Dion. I just thought about that. I've had a lot of people that I went to school with call me Dion the Creative. I'm like, bro, you know my government, don't do that. But yeah, so been doing photography as a hobby since like 2011 when I graduated high school. Got a little bit more serious with it when I was in police, cause I needed an outlet from like the stressful job that was police. Mm-hmm. Started taking it way more serious to the point where I started like serving, started doing it as a like proper service in 2019, and then went full time in January of this year.
Okay,
Yeah.
So let's talk about your background. You said you was a police officer. So how long were you a police officer? Did you enjoy it? Did you not?
Okay, so I was a police officer for 4 years. Joined at 21, left at 25 because I was like, this isn't for me. Mm-hmm. I actually really loved the job. I was a little too young. I didn't understand politics as well as I should have to be in that job because it's literally nothing but politics.
Okay.
There's a lot of helping people, but not in the way that I thought it was. So it's just, it didn't line up with what I wanted to do for the rest of my life at that point. So I decided to leave and go back to school.
Okay. So how did you prepare to leave your job? And what was your like plan for once you finished?
So I'm very much a person that just jumps and figures it out after I jump. Okay. So I had a little bit of a nest egg. Probably not as big of one as I should have had, but I had one. And then I went to school, which obviously burnt through that nest egg super quick. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so I had, the year I left, I had been thinking about it for like 3 months before I even decided like, okay, this is what I wanted to do. It wasn't just like I woke up one morning, okay, cool, I'm leaving, I'm done, here's my resignation. Like I thought about it before I even thought about like actually resigning. So the amount of planning probably wasn't what most people would do, but it's just the way I'm wired, which is why I think I'm a good entrepreneur because I make snap decisions and don't dwell on them for too long. Which is very important, which is now what I've really learned. That snap decisions is literally 9 times out of 10 the only decisions you have as an entrepreneur. Yeah.
Okay. So you basically left police last year?
No, I left in 2018.
Okay, so what happened between 2018 and becoming a full-time entrepreneur?
So 2018, I went back to school in the UK for programming, no less, nothing to do with creativity. Realized programming was for the birds. I just, was not for me. So then I came home, I was going to take a gap year and I was going to go back and do either something in the creative field or something I was looking at psychology because I've always loved like talking to people. Mm-hmm. And then the pandemic hit. So I got stuck at home. I was just like, oh, well, I need to find something to do. And so I started working at, Tobacco Bay right before the pandemic hit, so that summer. And I had bought the camera before the one I have now. And that's when I really started to be like, okay, yeah, this is a little bit more than just a hobby. It's more of a passion project now. But then people started paying me. So I was like, oh, I can make money from this. So that's when I was like, okay, forget school. Because at that point, that had been my 3rd attempt at school. So I was like, cool, 3 strikes, I'm out, I'm done. And then I stuck to a camera and I haven't looked back since.
Okay. So what was your first couple paid gigs like?
Paid gigs where I actually wanted to shoot or paid gigs where someone offered me money afterwards?
Where someone offered you money.
Okay, so they were all at Tobacco Bay. They were all 2 out of the first 3 were engaged, like surprise engagements. Okay. Where the husband knew he wanted to propose on the trip, but didn't know when and where, like what was the right moment. Mm-hmm. And that's why I really figured out how to like talk to people and try to like sell people and stuff. Cause I had this one guy walk up to me and he was like, hey, so I'm proposing to my wife, like, or my soon to be wife, over the course of the trip. We're only here for 3 more days. Where's a good place to like to do it? And I was just like right there on the rocks. And I would just point at it. And he'd be like, "Oh my god, the sunset up there must be amazing." I'm like, "Yeah," and I'm like, "I could take pictures for you. Like, I have my camera. Like, it's no big deal." And he was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, awesome." And then I would do it, and then he was like, "Oh, this is amazing." And him and the wife would come and just pass me money. And I was just like, "Oh, I didn't need money." They was like, "No, no, no, like, thank you." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And after the second time, I was like, "Oh no, this is a thing. Like, I can make money from this." So that, it was never me wanting to make money, I guess. It was just because, I like to take pictures. This is a moment that needs to be captured. Here you go.
That's awesome. Because that's the way, I feel like that's the way it should be. Because you're doing it for fun.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Money just comes second.
Yep.
So when did you start actually charging people for your services, and what were those prices?
So I started in 2020. So when did we come out of that first lockdown? In May?
Yeah, about May or June.
Yeah,
like
so
that.
I started charging people around that time. And my prices were all over the place. I legit had to ask like 3 of my mentors and like four or five different friends. I was like, I didn't know what to charge. So I think I started at $75 an hour, but that quickly jumped to like $125 or $150 after I spoke to some of my mentors. They're like, no. That's way too low. Like, you need to come up. I was just like, I don't know. Like, because at that point I was working at Marketplace, so Marketplace pays very well, which is why a lot of people will
Stay
work there.
there.
Yeah, like,
and they don't leave.
it is such a good paycheck. And it also depends on the type of person you are. Like me, I give 110% until you prove to me that I don't need to give 110%. But I also can't have a bad work ethic, so it's like a double. It sucks. But for the amount of effort that I had to put in and get that good of a paycheck, it was ridiculous. Like, I could work a whole 8-hour shift, make $160, and maybe really work for 3 hours. So it's just like, this is great.
Why these people don't leave Marketplace?
It's like some people, like some places you do have to actually do a lot of work, but I was at Price Rate. So Price Rate is, if you get the store running smoothly, you really don't have to work hard except for when containers come in.
Right.
So it just depends on the day. So, but after working there and having to like answer to managers, and majority of the managers I had great people, just stressful environment, right? Because pandemic, all that sort of stuff. But I just couldn't answer to people. Like, I'm one of those, I've now learned that that's why I need to be an entrepreneur, because if you tell me to do something, I'll be like, but why? Like, why can't I do it this way? Because this way is easier and it's going to make more sense for me. But it's going to get done the way you want it to get done. Just let me do it my way. And they're like, no, do it my way. And I'm just like, oh, okay. That's not going to happen. I'm going to do it my way. And then you're not going to know that I did it my way. So yeah, I'm very hard-headed.
I totally understand you with that one, because like sometimes like the way that you're asking me to do something is just backwards, like or at least in my head it's backwards, and it's just like the same. As long as the same result comes out, why does it matter how it's done?
Exactly. And then what year were you born?
95.
Oh yeah, so you're millennial too. So yeah, this is why people think millennials are like so combative, is because we just think differently. But if you're getting the result you want, why does it matter how I do it?
And we can probably find a lot easier way to do it on top of all of that. So
exactly.
That's interesting. So how long were you at Marketplace?
Just over a year.
Okay.
Yeah, I started May 2020, and then I left there August or July of 2021. Okay. And went to work for Bermuda Spirits, which is a smaller alcohol distributor. Because I had, funnily enough, shot one of their booze cruises that they did during the summer, and the owner was just like, hey, like, this is great, like, great stuff, do you want another job? And I was just like, what do you, like, yeah, sure, I'll shoot again for you. He's like, no, like, come work for us, you could do the marketing, and you could be like, we'll train you to be the sales manager. So I was like, okay, great. Went over there, took a significant pay cut, but I got so much more free time. So I was just like, it's worth it, because now I have the freedom of mind to like go and do what I want creatively. They would let me do stuff like for their social media, so I learned some skills there. In the end, didn't work out just because I got a taste of freedom, and I realized, oh no, this is what I want. I really want freedom. So I ended up leaving there in January, and haven't looked back since. Okay.
It's interesting that you said that, because I listen to a lot of interviews and stuff. I'm not sure if you watch Power TV.
I have, but I haven't watched it in years.
Okay. So they the two main characters for the second spin-off, they have a podcast, and they was
Is that the son or is it Tommy's one?
No, the son, yeah.
Oh, the son's one? Okay, cool.
Yeah. So they had one of the actors on, and was it that? No, it wasn't even that. It was the Pivot podcast. My apologies.
Okay.
It was that one. It was Rotimi. And he was talking about how he was on this show, like a successful show, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. And he's like, this show is keeping me in a bubble, but I want to grow type thing. So he went and took the role on Power, and it was a significant pay cut, but it changed his life indefinitely type thing. Yeah. So it's interesting that you said that, because what I'm learning is that's what a lot of people's doing. It's okay to take a pay cut because you realize exactly, like, it gives you more freedom, and it also allows you to like understand where you're trying to go in life, and then ultimately you get on the exact path that you want. So that's interesting that you said that.
And then so for people who know me, I'm a huge basketball fan, like huge. Haven't watched it recently because I'm not happy with where the league's at, but like I love the game of basketball. So LeBron was one of my favorite players growing up. So when he went to Miami and took that pay cut just to say, okay, well, this is the path I want to, that stuck with me. So like, cause he chose freedom, his own choice. Like he left his hometown to say like, well, if you're not going to do it for me,
from Cleveland, right?
Exactly. Okay. If you're not going to do it for me, I'll go down to Miami where they won't give me as much money, but they're willing to build with me. So like that has always stuck with me.
And that's exactly what they did. And that's why they dominated for so long.
Yep.
It's interesting. I didn't even know that. So that's cool. So you left that job in January, and now you've been on your own since. How has that been? Like, did you have a reserve before you did that, or you're just like, I'm just going with it?
Yes and no. So I even less planning than when I left to go to school this time, because this one was definitely like, yeah, I've had enough of this. I know I can do it like on my own.
Okay.
But the way when I left, I know I had 2 paychecks still coming in, so I'm like, okay, cool. That gives me a month, 6 weeks to get off the ground and running. But I also had photography jobs lined up. So I just hit the ground running. Literally anybody who wanted anything, I went into hustle mode. I was just like, cool, yeah, I'll do it. I'll do this 1 hour shoot. I'll do this half an hour shoot, like whatever. And I got into the habit of like trying to sell my services properly.
Okay.
Because before I was just like, oh yeah, like I don't mind. I don't need the money, so I'll do it for the love of it and then get paid. But then I was like, oh no, like now I need money. So no, I have to do it for the love of it, but I have to make sure that I'm like getting covered properly. Right. Yeah. So, that was an interesting learning curve, because I learned very quickly taking on a lot of 1 hour jobs is a lot of work.
It's more work than a longer session.
Yeah, 100%. Like if I do a 3 hour shoot, 3 hour shoot will probably take me roughly 2-3 hours to edit. But if I do a 1 hour shoot, picking up 9 of those, it's actually probably closer to 15 hours, because I'm switching in between different modes of editing. Like I might be editing this birthday shoot. I might be editing this maternity shoot. I might be editing this corporate event, but they're all different looks. Right. So I'm got to switch in between, which means I'm got to like take breaks. And yeah, so it just is 10 times easier to just say, cool, I have 3 shoots. They're all 3 hours long. So I can sit down and like get into a flow.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. So before you left the last job, were you were still getting paid to do photography? So that was like a second source of income.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so that made it easier to leave.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. Like I knew I could get the income needed. I just have to put my mind to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about the creative process.
Okay.
What is that like for you?
It'd be easier if what did you want to know? Because my creative process changes based on the project.
Okay.
So are we talking about for someone approaches me, or I want to do it for myself?
Let's talk about doing it for yourself.
Okay. So doing it for myself, usually it's, I see something and I'm like, cool, I want to do that, but in my way. Or it's I hear something and then like it sits in the back of my head for like a week or two, and I'm like, oh, now I know how I want to use that sound, that music, whatever. But it's usually always based on like a visual cue. So like Burna Boy, when he did Last, when that song came out, it was stuck in my head for weeks. Like I didn't know how I wanted to use it, I just knew it was there. And then I went to Cup Match, and I was just like, oh, like this is it. This is like that song that has nothing to do with Cup Match in any way, shape, or form. It's actually about heartbreak, but it kind of spoke to me because I'm a St. George's fan, so my heart gets broken every year.
Every year,
yeah.
Oh my goodness!
But it's catchy, so like it, and people relate to it because it's Burna Boy and all that sort of stuff.
Right.
Yeah. So it really just depends on the mood I'm in. Like I've started going back and looking through stuff. A lot of my footage is a little desaturated and cold, same with my photos. And I found it's because I wasn't happy, which was crazy to me to look back at. I'm like, oh, I wasn't in a good headspace, and now all of my stuff is warm and stuff because like I'm happy again. So I'm like, oh wow. So the creative process shows its face in so many different ways.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
that's definitely interesting.
Yeah, it shocked me. I was like, oh, okay. I guess I'm okay now.
Yeah, understandable. Mm-hmm. So what do you do like when you're not motivated to do anything? Because like now your income is based on what you do, literally. So it's like, how do you deal with like, oh, I'm not motivated to do anything this week? Yeah,
so that's, first off, I try to talk to whoever I have to shoot with. Like, so right now I work with Take 5 a lot.
Okay, Take 5 is
the parent company for Buzz, Devil's Isle, Village Pantry, Island Pantry. That they're all underneath Take 5.
Okay.
So they take up a lot of my time, rightfully so, because they pay me enough for it.
Right.
And I love working with their marketing manager, Maxanne, is just literally amazing. Like I can't sing her praises enough. So they take up a lot of my time. So some weeks I'm just like, look, Max, can we do it next week? And she's like, yeah, cool. It's awesome. But then there's like one-off clients. I'm just like, I don't want to deal with you right now. Like I don't. And sometimes I can tell some people that, but sometimes I'm just like, I'm gonna ghost you for a little bit, and then I'll come back and like just give you the stuff that you need.
Right.
But it's not the healthiest way to do things. But a lot of people I've now kind of chosen the clients that, if they don't like it, they will understand in the long run because they're either a business owner themselves or they're creative in some way. Mm-hmm. So I've kind of made that lane, so it makes it that much easier. But 9 times out of 10, if I have to do something and it's paying me, I can motivate myself to do it because it's money, right? I need it. But when it comes to my stuff, I'll just sit on my hands until I'm ready to do something.
Okay. Yeah. So you just spoke about Take 5. Is that like a long-term contract or is it short-term? How does that work?
It's semi-long-term. Right now, I think it's set to expire in November or December.
Okay.
But it's going to get re-signed. Like we've already talked about that. It's just a matter of waiting for like the date to hit. Mm-hmm. We might even scrap it and just write a new one and go from there. But that relationship has honestly, like, it's opened my eyes a lot because now with Take 5, I literally can say yes or no to whatever I want afterwards because they take care of all my bills.
Right.
So anything outside of that is literally extra. And the amount of, like, yet again, that word freedom, the amount of freedom that gives me is just, I think that's why I've been so creative because now I'm like, oh, cool. I know Max is going to hit me up for 15, 20 hours this week. I now have however many hours is left in the month to do whatever I want.
Right. Yeah. So what type of work are you doing for them?
Mainly social media and marketing stuff. Okay. So they have a lot of locations underneath their belt. They have like 12, I think. But the amount of stuff that goes into it, like behind the scenes, is something I didn't realize until I started working with them. Okay. So all the Buzz chefs are interchangeable. They all have their home ones, but they can move from place to place. Like they have, his name's Jericho. He does their pizzas, which they just started, which is actually amazing. And that's probably my favorite part of the job, is getting to taste all the food. But it's a lot of food photography. It's a lot of marketing to try to get, because obviously it's the service industry, right? So it's a quick turnover for a lot of the positions. Yeah. So getting people who's been there for a while on camera to kind of get younger people into the service industry, which Bermuda needs, period. Like hospitality and service industry, we just need young people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like I have a yay and nay with that.
Oh no, me too. 100%. But
because I worked in it and it's just like the pay I'm pretty sure it's not. It wasn't there then. I know
not.
they have changed minimum wage, but I know the service jobs are the ones that are also sometimes excluded because you have gratuitous.
Yeah.
So it's just like, I agree and I disagree when it comes to.
No, I'm right there with you.
When it comes to the pay of the service jobs, like I understand you. I'm done it for like 5 years, and 5 years was enough for me.
Yeah, yeah. But I feel like the young people that need it are the ones that are in school. So the ones who can do it part-time and they don't really have too much to worry about financially. Once you start getting to our age bracket, you're like, unless you're management level, are you like, I don't know. Or unless you're behind a bar. If you're a bartender, then you're good. You're golden. But like, waiting and stuff like that, that's different. But, yeah, it's a lot of like marketing stuff to try to get fresh blood into the company, as well as just showing off what they can do, because they do such a wide range. Like I didn't realize how much stuff they did until I was there. They do everything from pizza to sushi to full on catering, like Taste of Bermuda that happened last night. They just catered that whole event. Okay. And I was just like, oh, like this is different. Like I knew we had catering companies, but I never thought that like Take 5 was one of them until I went there. And I was like, oh, right. You get to pull on Devil's Isle, Village Pantry, and everything that Buzz does into one place. So to see how they go through that process is cool too.
Awesome. So you collaborate with other creatives a lot in Bermuda. How has that benefited and or hindered you with your growth?
It's definitely more benefits than hindrance. So 9 times out of 10 creating for me is about mindset that I'm in. So if I'm in a good mindset, then collaborating is amazing. Like it always goes well. If I'm in a negative mindset, that's when it becomes a hindrance, because then when you collaborate with somebody, they're kind of expecting something from you. So if I'm not in the right headspace and you're expecting something from me, it's not going to be what you want, because we're going to have two different, like you're excited to collaborate and I'm just like, you want to collaborate and I don't want to let you down. So now it's that. But 9 times out of 10, it's a great thing. Like I collaborated with Jade, Yassine, Denaji. I'm not sure if he wants to say his government, so I'll say Insecure.
That's the guy that has the art coming out soon,
on
right?
Friday. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So I actually have his interview today after this.
Okay.
for Origin Stories. And then Hood Vogue, whose house and pool we was in, and then a couple other guys. Kayante from His and Hers Beauty.
Okay.
She was there, and I can't remember the other guys' names for the life of me. But we all just I got an invite last minute. I was like, hey, you should show up to this, because I've known Yassine for a while now, and it's been wanting to get me out to one of their meetups. And I was like, you know what, I've got time today, sure. So I pulled up, and it was honestly the greatest thing. I didn't realize how much I needed to be around not only creatives, but younger black creatives. Like that, I'm still riding that wave, which is why I'm okay to just put out what I put out right now and don't care about my output. Yeah.
That's interesting. So when did you start this this new series you just started, please?
Origin Stories?
Yes. When did you what was the before you started? What was the idea behind it? Like, why did you start it?
Okay, so technically it started last year with a different name. So originally it was Inside of These Lines, and I only have 2 interviews up. My one and the one with Chris John. But that was underneath Inside of These Lines. So now I have to redo both of ours under the new one. But the whole idea behind it was there are so many creatives on the island that people either don't know about or they don't really know. Like Jade, Queen of Mites, but do you actually know why she's doing what she's doing? 9 times out of 10, no, because I didn't know. Right. And unless you're one of her friends that she grew up with, most people don't know. So it was kind of that idea, because then there's people that I know very well. I know Day. Everybody knows Day. He's literally the best bartender in Bermuda. But
he's also an artist.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So he's also an artist. So people's like, oh, you create these drinks so well. It's because he's a creative. He's not just a bartender. He's a mixologist. He's an artist. He does all these things. But then a lot of people don't know Day went to prison. And that's kind of what caused him to have this view on life and the way he creates.
Like he went when he was younger, though. I think.
Yeah, I think
he
was
spoken to him a little bit about it.
Yeah, he was. I can't remember how old he said he was, but he was like early 20s, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like, there's all these stories that people don't know. Like, they know the faces, they know what they are doing now,
right?
But what were they doing before? Like, what was their origin story? And I was speaking to Kian about it one day, and he was saying that, oh yeah, like his daughter is obsessed with anime now, and she's like, Dad, what's your origin story? And the name just like clicked. I was like, that's the name of the series right there. So you have to be the first interview. And he was just like, what? Okay. And we tried to record it once, and we went out to the bridge that runs across by Police Beach.
The new one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I wish they would hurry up and finish that, by the way, because I just can't wait to actually do a proper shoot on it. But it got dark a little too quick, so it was like, okay, cool, we need to redo this. So that's when we did the first like sit down one in St. George's. And from there, it's just like, I've had people hit me up. It's like, hey, I want to be on it. Hey, I want to be on it. And a lot of them like, yes. But then there's other people who I legitimately want to interview, but they're not creatives. So I'm like, do I now just open it up to everybody, or do I make another series? Like, it's an interesting one.
Start a podcast, man.
Yes, but no. Audio is literally my worst nightmare.
But you can outsource that.
I know I can, but then that's like money, and I haven't gotten the funding that I want yet. Okay, I'm still doing it like, and the second I start outsourcing, like stuff like that loses the passion in my eyes. So I
so
still,
you'd rather learn how to do the audio and then go from there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Or at least learn how to do it, so that way when I do outsource it, I'm not just like, just make it sound good. I can actually like tell them what I want and all that. But yeah, so that's my passion project right now, because it allows me to talk to people, meet new people, learn stuff about people that I already know. Like, I didn't know half a day's story, and I thought I did, which is crazy.
Because you guys do a lot together.
Yeah, like, and I didn't realize how much of his journey and my journey were connected. Because I've known he's been doing art since like before we met, but I didn't realize that the whole video side of his art life started when we started linking up.
Okay.
And it wasn't until we sat down that interview, and I was like, oh wow, like, okay. I thought there was like something before me, and he's like, nah. I was just like, oh, damn, so I can't leave now. But yeah, so like, it's just collaborating is kind of what led me to that series.
Okay. Yeah. You had a definition series last year. What was that about?
So that's the one that made me realize that I was in I don't want to say a dark place, but I wasn't in the right headset.
Okay.
Or the right headspace, sorry. So, that one was, I can't remember where I got inspired for it, but it was basically this guy, and he's doing photos, and he was like doodling on them with like an Apple Pencil, like on an iPad, and like, he would take this amazing photo, but then like doodle on it in a way that adds to the photo. And that kind of like it made me inspired, because I was like, oh, this is cool, but everything was grayscale except for the skin tones. And I'm like, well, I don't want to draw, because even if it's a doodle, it's just not my thing. So then I started shooting in that style of that grayscale except for skin tones, and it spoke to me. And then it was towards the end of the year, I think, that I started doing that one. And my granny passed away Christmas time. Oh, this is bad. A couple years ago. So she's been passed away for a while now. So I'm like, it's every year around Christmas and around my birthday, I get really reflective about my relationship with her. So the definition series was kind of the lead up to that, of like all the things that mean something to me, and then it ended with family and my granny.
Okay,
yeah.
That's awesome. So when did you start venturing into videography, and why? Because I know you started off with basically photo, but now you're doing a lot of video.
When did I start? Probably with Day, like January of 2021. Is that when I met Day? Yeah, that's when I met Day. When I met him and Moss is when I started venturing into video, just because photo was always there, but obviously with the world we live in now, it's either you're doing a podcast or everyone wants video. So I kind of had to learn if I want to either stay relevant or competitive,
right?
Because there's literally at least 120 photographers on this island that like do it to the point where they're charging people. And I was just like, I don't want to be a number. Like, I want to have something unique about me. So it was picking up a camera and being able to go, hey, cool, yeah, I could take your photo, and I can also give you this video. And then from there, it kind of, people were like, oh, no, like, you're good at this video thing, so I don't need photos. Just do videos for me. So that was nice because it allowed me to learn a new skill, but then take back my passion of photography. And then when someone asked for photos, it was like, oh, yes, okay, this is what I'm excited now.
Right.
Yeah. So video just literally came out of needing to stay relevant and competitive.
Okay. Because your reels are awesome.
Thank you.
I wish. Like I enjoy, like, photography and videography. But I can't see myself doing it professional. I just do my YouTube channel and that's it.
That's fine.
And I find I feel like I'm getting to the point now, so like I'm tired of self-recording. But I also don't have the funds to pay someone to follow me around. So it's just like, well, you're gonna have to figure out how to do this a little better. So I did like you said, I have the Osmo now, so I'm just using that instead of my iPhone, which is a small upgrade. The quality is a little better.
Yeah.
You get better audio, but it's just like
no, it's definitely like. So for me, that's what video was at first for me. It was just like, I don't want to do this, but like people need it. And then the more and more I got into it, I was like, oh, there's like a whole side of videography, aka cinematography, which I didn't know existed until I met Moss.
Okay.
And now it's like, oh, I wouldn't call myself a cinematographer, but I'm working towards that title because to me, that's where the art. So when you add art to videography, you get cinematography. If you're just walking around recording stuff, it's videography. And it's nothing wrong with that. Like, there's a proper lane. That's what I'm doing now. There's a lane for videography. But, like, my end goal is to do videography, but then anything I do for myself is cinematography. Like, I will never want to do cinematography for somebody else unless it's, like, a movie just for whatever reason. Like, someone says, hey, I want you to shoot this movie. Cool, let's do it. But I don't want to do cinematography as far as like commercial cinematography because then it's like it's back to that whole photo, like I'm getting paid to do my passion, which is now taking some of the passion out of it.
Right. Okay. All right, so you posted well, these questions are a bit old.
They're a little bit old because we have to redo it, but
So you posted a video called the vulnerability video, at least that's what I'm calling it.
I think it was like I titled it vulnerability.mp4, which was, I don't know why, but like I was doing somewhat of a series where everything was .mp4.
Okay.
That one. What's your question before I start going on a tangent?
So what happened and what were you going through, if you don't mind sharing?
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, cool. I was going to go on the right tangent then.
Okay.
So when I made that I was coming out of an unmotivated phase into a motivated phase. So I realized that the reason I was unmotivated is because I was taking on too much client work and wasn't creating for myself enough. So I like had to, I'm one of those people where if I don't sit down and say it, then it will just sit in my head and it'll get worse. So originally I didn't plan on posting that video. I was just going to shoot it, have it recorded, leave it on a hard drive. And then my girlfriend came into the room and saw me watching it back. And she was like, oh, that's a great video. Are you going to post that? And I was just like, okay, I guess so. I didn't plan on it. And she was like, why not? Like, I think it's great. So I was like, okay. So I posted it. And literally the response I got from that was like, I don't do it. I don't like being in the public eye. I actually hate it. Like, I can't stand it. But I've now had to kind of accept that with what I'm doing, that is like a side effect. And the response I got from that was like, I had one of my mentors reach out to me and he was just like, I want to make a response video. And life got away from us, so we never made a response video. But literally, like, it was like those sort of things, like people that I look up to are reaching, I wouldn't say reaching down, but they was like offering out a hand. I was like, you're doing great stuff. Like, keep it up. So I was just like, oh, cool. I'm just in my own head. So like literally getting that onto, for lack of a better words, a screen, like away from myself and be able to see myself and be like, oh no, I am good. Like I'm cool. I'm just get out my head.
I'm so with you on that. From I feel like we spoke at the beginning of the year. Mm-hmm. So since we spoke, I went to a entrepreneurship conference called the Black Equity Con, and I was telling people like, oh yeah, I'm gonna start a podcast, blah blah blah. They're like, well, why haven't you started? I was like, well, do you have any episodes? I was like, yeah, I got like 10. They're like, well, why haven't you, like, what is wrong with you? So and it's literally one of those people. It's literally me in my own head. I'm just like, yo, like, why? Because like if I really launched it when I started recording, I could be monetized by now. Like, you know, it's just like my whole motto like right now in my headset is, why are you standing in your own way?
Oh, ooh,
because that's literally all it is. It's not I don't have enough money to do it. I don't have enough time to do it. It's just, why aren't you doing it? Like, get out of your own way is literally where I'm at now. So you see, I'm recording podcasts again because I actually officially launched it in August. So I'm running out of my buffer. So it's like, now we need to start recording some episodes. But yeah, that's interesting that you said that. And I think just the other day I posted basically like a vulnerability post type thing. I recorded it in February, and it was just like, because during that time I was also figuring out my why, like, why am I doing what I'm doing?
Oh yeah.
So I just like and that night I just couldn't sleep, so I literally recorded that stuff at like 2 a.m. because I was just up.
That's
my body's like,
hours.
yo, you're not sleeping? All right, let me, like, what is in my head? Let me just get what's in my head out type thing. And
you probably had the best sleep of your life afterwards, didn't it?
I had to go work.
Oh, never mind. Damn, okay.
So I was just up all night and then still had to go, but after that, But, it's interesting. Like I think, that's...
Like, I was just having a conversation the other day with... It was somebody I was really close to, and they was just like, I'm not trying to compete with everybody else. Like, I'm competing with the guy in the mirror. Like, if I can get 1% better than, okay, you're gonna have to bleep this one. If you can get 1% better than that in the mirror, then you're winning.
Okay.
It's not about who's next to you. Like, none of that. Yeah, you're gonna have to bleep that one. I'm sorry.
Even as you said that, I've been reading this book, The Millionaire Fast Lane. And then I also, before that, I read Atomic Habits. And it's like... I
love that.
It's not even about getting 5% better every day. It's just 1% better every day for 365 days.
Compound
That's 365% better by the end of the year. And I'm just like, okay.
But it's not even 365% better. It's like closer to like 5 something. Because it's compounded, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, Atomic Habits. Like, if you haven't read that, you need to read Atomic Habits.
Most definitely. Yeah. I mean, I'm not good at implementing habits, but the mindset habits I have. It's just the physical habits where I'm just slacking.
Yeah.
Most definitely. Like,
I get that. Literally, 2 a.m. is my most creative hour, and then I'm up at 7, so that tells you what my sleep schedule's like.
Okay, that's interesting, because I know that I work better early hours when everyone else is asleep. So like lately I've been getting up at like 3:45, but I go to sleep like 8, 9, so I'm getting my hours of sleep, but it's just like I get up that early and I accomplish so much, and then I go to work. And that to me is like the best feeling in the world, because at the end of the day, everyone else that I'm working with woke up like an hour and a half prior to coming to work, and that's the rest of their day. So it's just like, it feels more accomplishing. But
when I was part of the 6 a.m. club, I definitely felt more productive, but I was angry. Like, I'm not a morning person.
Okay, so you'd rather stay up late and sleep in?
Yeah.
Okay.
100. Like, if I can start my day at 12, I am so happy. Like, that's literally when I'm most creative, because I'm up from 12 to 2. Okay. And then just chilling. But now I'm gotta be up at 7 every day, because like I'm trying to get. That's not a healthy sleeping schedule. At least to be like productive in Bermuda. Anywhere else in the world, I'll be fine.
Right.
But because of the way Bermuda's set up, we all know that after 6 o'clock, nothing's open. So that gives me 6 hours to do stuff, and that's not feasible.
Right.
Yeah.
Totally understandable. So let's talk about the Princess Project. That was something that was posted a while ago. Is you and a few other creatives
that was me, Dave, Moss, and Mari. And that So Morris is the one who got approached about that project. They came to him and he was just like, if I'm doing this, I'm doing it with my team. And we all came onto it. We did like this big pitch to them. Didn't go the way we wanted it to originally. Right. Because the first time we had talked about it, we were still like in the throes of it. Now it's over. So I can actually talk about it a little bit more. But, we basically pitched like this really big overarching project because we got excited. It's like, oh, Hamilton Princess, like we want to go above and beyond, which obviously comes to the price tag, but the price tag was so we could do what we wanted to do, not because like, oh, it's Hamilton Princess, we're gonna like get hungry. Like, no. It was like, oh, we wanted to do all these things because we know you have the budget to allow us to do these things, which allows us to be that much more creative. And it didn't work out the way we wanted to, but they still gave us a good sized budget of what we wanted. They actually gave us more than what we originally had asked for as like a pilot.
Okay.
And we learned that working with that scale of a business was not what we was ready for at that time. Like it just, we weren't prepared for that, like upfront and honest. And it took a lot of soul searching from all of us to be like, oh, okay, like we're not ready for like this like Avengers level team up yet. It's just not it's not in us yet. But it was definitely a good learning experience because the team at Hamilton Princess, like they were understanding, they worked with us, and they're like there's no bad blood or anything like that. But it was just like, okay, cool, here's the videos we promised, like and we both were just like, yeah, we don't think this is going to work out right now. Come back, we can always revisit it later. Like I still do some stuff for them here or there every once in a while, but it just we were overly ambitious. Like, you know, when you're fresh out of fresh out of school and like the world hasn't beaten you down yet, we had those goggles on. Okay. And then we got there and we was like, oh, like this the world sucks. Yeah, but like we got to do some really cool stuff with it creatively. So now we've taken that and I think we've all used it in our own unique ways. Right. Like I now know how to deal with clients that much better because obviously dealing with that caliber of client, like you've got to like stay on top of them. Right. That, and then I've also now learned how to work in bigger productions because usually it was just me by myself, my camera, run and gun. That we had to plan models, we had to plan shoot days, we had to talk to Hamilton Princess, well, look, we need access on these days, like, oh cool, we can't have that day, well, here's our reshoot day. And like it was like all that level of logistics made me realize that if I ever grow a team, literally the first person after a second shooter, or I'll probably hire them both at the same time, as a project manager. That way I don't have to do that.
Exactly. Yep.
Like I can legit just worry about the creative side. I'm like, okay, cool, here, you get paid to make sure I don't have to do anything admin wise. Yeah. Okay. But
so are they using the videos that you guys have they been released, I should say?
That I don't think they have. Okay. I'm not even sure if they will release them. There were some creative differences. Okay. Now I think those videos aren't what we're capable of, but at the time I think they were really good. Okay. Because we finished, it's now what, it's October now. Yeah. We would have finished that in May-ish, June. And I haven't seen them yet. So unless they're like waiting for something, because they're more summary, so they might wait until.
So they might wait till next year.
Yeah. But as far as I know, there's no plan for them as of yet.
Yeah. All right. So when did you recognize your full potential?
I don't think I still have.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. I recognized that I had a unique offer when I had the top players in my field reaching out. It's like, hey, we need you to do X, Y, and Z. And that's when I was like, it was a little bit of an ego boost, but more of just like, cool, I'm on the right path.
And when you say that, as for photography or videography?
Both.
Okay.
So that's why people were reaching out to me. It's because they could hire me and know that if need be, I can do both in a pinch. Which was like, there's not many people in the island that can do that. Like even Moss can take photos. He won't do it unless it's for himself 9 times out of 10. Okay. Like, he'll be like, no, like go to this person because that's what they do. Right. There's very few people. Do you know Brandon Morrison? Bahamian. It's a little bit older than us.
The name sounds familiar, but yeah. I don't think so.
Yeah, he's one of my mentors. He's the one that kind of like clued me into the fact of being able to do both just makes you that much more valuable. It's him, Tyson works at Greenlight, 441 drone. I'm not sure if you, yeah.
Heard the name, but
yeah. So him, and maybe like 3 or 4 more guys that I could probably like really put my head to. If I needed to think of the names, I could do it, but off the top of my head, I can't. But there's not many of us that can do both, and that this made me realize like, oh, yes, okay, cool. This is what's going to make me valuable, and this is going to help me get to like the level I want to get.
Okay. And the last time we spoke, you were in the Ignite program. So what was that experience like? How did you get into it?
So I had to pitch. I had to do a 60-second pitch, and I hated it. I hated literally every millisecond of it. I don't like selling myself in that way. I'd rather we sit down for 20 minutes and have a conversation.
Right.
One, because I like to ramble, which is good and a bad thing. But 2, just because like it felt forced, if that makes sense. Like that's not how I would speak. So why? That's not how I'm going to sell myself to somebody. So why should I practice that? Because now it's just, it just doesn't feel right. Doesn't feel authentic. So I had to pitch to get in, and I was nervous the entire time. I got picked. Me and my girlfriend both got picked. So it was nice to go through it with her, because at least then I had somebody at home who like understood what was happening with that.
Right.
But all in all, I knew a couple of people who had gone through the program, but none of them were service-based like businesses. They were all, I have a product that I'm going to sell you, except for Colin at Sargasso. But at the same time, his service wasn't the same service as mine. It wasn't creative-based. It's very numbers-driven, like how many deliveries did you do today? So when I went in, I kind of already knew that the program was going to be fit for a creative business. So I said, cool, I'm going in to learn whatever I can about business, period, and for the network. And I got those things.
Right.
But then speaking to different people within the program and people who had graduated, I realized the amount of creative people that have went through the program is slim to none.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was just like, cool, this isn't for me. So like I butted heads with a couple people because of that. And like I just couldn't fully, it goes back to that freedom thing. Like I'm an entrepreneur. I have to be there these days. And if I'm not there, it's a problem. Like, well, I'm an entrepreneur. Like things could happen on the like drop of a dime.
Right.
And they understand, but they also don't. They're like, oh yeah, cool, we get it. But you need to be here. It's like, well, I can't be there, so you're gonna have to get over it. and like at the end of it, I kind of did a little bit of growing up, and I sat down and I talked to my mentor, and I was like, look, like I know I was difficult, but it's because I just didn't make sense to me. And he was like, yeah, I get that, but it's like you signed up for that. I'm like, I get that I signed up for that, but I didn't think it was gonna be like this.
Okay.
Like I didn't think you would be on me if I missed this event. Like yes, it said mandatory, but I thought that was like I heard mandatory and I was like, cool, if I miss it though, they're not gonna like check up on me like it's school.
Right.
Like it's more of a bachelor's program than a master's or a PhD.
Right.
And that's what I was expecting more of the master's PhD is like, oh yes, you need to be in class, but if you're not, then like it's your loss.
Right.
Rather than like, oh no, you need to be in class. So that it was that. And I would do it again, but with the knowledge that I know now, I don't think I would do the full program. I think I would do the light program because it's less of a time commitment.
Okay.
And you don't get as much of the community aspect, but I feel like I still would have gotten what I needed.
Okay.
Yeah.
So because you spoke about it in the last one, I was like, let me check out this program. And I applied and I got in.
Good stuff.
So it's interesting that you say as a creative, because at first I thought I wasn't going to get selected. Because
Wait, so
it's
are you
not,
in the next one?
I'm in cohort 6, yeah.
Nice.
So it starts on Tuesday. But I was surprised that I got selected because I did it for my podcast as a business.
See, but that's
So-
a podcast is different though.
How so?
'Cause it's
like I feel like it's still like it's not creative, but I don't know how they're gonna assist me.
It's more because the podcast, it's more about growing the business of the podcast.
True.
I didn't need help growing the business of Dion the creative. You can't tell me how to be me. What you can tell me is how to meet more people, how to get me in front of more people. And that's why I feel like I didn't. Like, I got that of me being in the space. I'm just doing it like that. But I wouldn't have met some of the people I met without Ignite, but Ignite didn't put me there, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Like, because I was there, I was able to, like, draw on that sort of stuff. Okay. And there are some things that I just, like I said, like, without Ignite, I don't think I would still be full-time. Like, I can very easily admit that. No problem with it. But, like, it's not what I expected going into it.
Okay.
But I would still tell anybody who's an entrepreneur, go through it, because everyone's experience is going to be different.
Right.
Like, yeah.
So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it, to see how they can push me in the path of monetizing my podcast. Like, I know how to do it, but I'm pretty sure they're going to show me how to implement everything that I have learned, in a sense. Because I also feel that's what is holding me back. It's like I have the knowledge, but I just don't know how to implement it. So hopefully we'll see what happens come the new year and go from there. Yeah. But
like, it's definitely an experience that every entrepreneur, if they're not afraid to pitch, should go through.
Yeah. Like, I'm pretty sure my pitch was like 45 seconds.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Because that's not, like you said, that's not me. Like, nah, this isn't me. And then, like, I don't care if they see this, but it was a room of one black person and two white people. And my podcast.
We're going to get into that.
So my podcast is literally called the Black Excellence Club. So once I sat down, I was like, oh man, like, how am I going to say why I really started the podcast without trying to offend anyone? So the one black lady there is just like shaking her head. I'm just like, okay.
Yeah. But so when I went in to pitch, it was literally a room of 3 white people. And I'm just like, everything I do is about my people.
Right.
Like, so, like, you're not going to be able to relate to a lot of the stuff. So I legit tailored my pitch to the corporate world. Okay. And that's not what I'm passionate about. So I was just like, so every time I went in to speak, do you know who your mentor is yet?
No, we're just doing the boot camp.
Oh, okay, so cool. Well, I think you find out right afterwards. I can't remember when. Yeah, you find out at the end of boot camp who your mentor is. But Sean was my mentor. Okay. So obviously Sean, you'll learn very quickly. Sean's personality is, I've always had a problem with like father figures and like authority figures. Never been a thing that I like get along with. Okay. So Sean is that figure. So it was just like, okay, cool. We're going to butt heads every time. Cause like, you expect the world of me, and I know what I'm capable of at this point in my life. Right. And he's that guy that won't let you think like that. Okay. So it's like, he's always challenging the way I think. I'm like, bro, I didn't come here to be challenged like this. Like, I really didn't. I came here for the community aspect. So, and that's what kind of helped me in the long run, which is why I like sat down with him. I'm like, look, like, you was right. I'm big enough to admit that. I still don't like it, but you was right. Right. But he pushed me, and I just couldn't stand it. Like, I dreaded going into those meetings, and my pitch changed every single time.
So what, you had to pitch like every time you went?
Every 2 weeks, you'll have a meeting with your mentor, and you're supposed to pitch. Start preparing yourself.
They didn't tell me that.
Yeah, well, they told you during boot camp, so you got the inside scoop.
Okay. Yes. Well, yes. That's definitely, like, I'm looking forward to it. And then I was also like, because we had like a Zoom a couple of weeks ago. And I was like, well, it's a diverse.
Lean into your cohort. That's my biggest, like, whoever's in your cohort, find who you gel with and lean into those people. Okay. Because that's the reason I went full time. I had, do you know Jermaine and Andrea Hines? They run Hindsight. It's a gym over in the old Barclays. Yes. They were part of the reason I was able to go full time. Because every month they was just like, cool, we're hiring you every month. Like, that extra little bit of just like, oh, this is what it feels like to work with someone consistently. That's like, that was it.
So they were in your cohort, or? Okay.
Well, so, and Dre never showed up. She was, she worked in the business and allowed Jermaine to work on the business. Okay. Which is like nice when you have that dynamic of a husband and a wife running it. But then obviously he would still work in the business when it was needed. But yeah, so like, and obviously Jermaine is, I can't remember how much older he is than me, but he's a little bit older, but more of like a big brother figure. Okay. So to see another black guy, I was just like, yes, I'm attaching to you. And then I had Enrico, who's going to be one of your RAs. Okay. Enrico and Tiffany. and Allison. So your RAs, all of them, and Dallas, attached to their hips.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, like I'm so glad that all the RAs are black now. Like, cause
So when you say RA, what do you mean?
so everyone but Allison was in my cohort. Okay. So they stay on for another year to help
others,
the next cohort along.
Okay, gotcha.
And we had the cohort before us help us. Mm-hmm. So Tiffany was in the cohort before me, my cohort, and now she's doing your cohort as an RA. So Tiffany is the person you want to attach yourself to.
Okay.
Yeah, and she's a creative, so she'll understand that mindset. Actually, they all are. Every single one of them are creative. So Enrico does audio engineering and music, and a little bit of photography when he wants to. Dallas does photography. Tiffany she does everything except for camera stuff, and Allison's a cinematographer. Okay. So like, trust me, attach yourself to those guys. They will definitely help with the podcast.
Okay. It's a lot to take in right there.
Yeah. We can always talk about that later too.
I got a lot to look forward to.
Yes.
They ain't gonna like that I'm missing one day. No.
I mean, if you gotta do what you gotta do.
It's literally like I'm not on the island, so it's like physically I won't be here.
Okay,
so
fair enough.
If you want to zoom me in, by all means, I'll do that. But
yeah, you can zoom in.
Okay, because like,
wait, are you missing the first day or the second day?
No, it's like in November, so it's like.
So
this is like the Wednesday evening.
Yeah, you can zoom into that.
Okay, like it's only one day. And it's interesting because my mom also applied, and I was just like, because I work shift work, and when I say everything fell into my days off, I was like, I have to do it. Like I have no excuse. Like you know, it's just like it's crazy how things just fall into place like that. Because that to me was weird when they gave me the schedule. Like, oh, you accept it. Here's the schedule, and then I aligned it. I was like, well, I can't say no. Yep. I literally can't say no. Yep. It's that to me was mind baffling because everything falls into place when it's time.
100%.
Everything, yeah.
And definitely use the space. Like the collab upstairs, if that digital suite is done, is going to be...
Because they did tell me about that in my interview.
Yes.
They said, yes, we're building this, so as long as you're in the cohort, you can use it for free, but after that, it'll be like a small price or whatever. Yeah. So, like, because it's interesting, like, even, like, with that 60-minute pitch thing, and then the guy was asking questions. At the end of it, he was like, I don't usually do this, but you're in.
Good stuff.
And then he said, but you need to work on this. Like, what was it? They were like, you need to work on... like being more sociable type thing. I'm just like, now you're trying to change my person. That didn't rub me well. Because now you're trying to change my personality. Yeah. Once you get to know me, you will know this is the way that I am. Yeah. This is an uncomfortable... Well, first off,
do you remember who said it?
It was the guy, like one of the co-founders.
Oh, the skinnier one or the bigger one?
The bigger one.
Oh, I can't remember his name, but yeah.
Yeah, so he was like, you just need to work on I'm not disagreeing that I don't have to work on it, but at the same time, you have to understand this is an uncomfortable position for me. For me
they
to
don't believe in that.
Me come and sit in a room and just like pitch myself to 3 people that I've never met, people that won't really 100% understand what I'm trying to do, like you know. So it's just like okay, but I understand. I definitely feel like I'm growing in that aspect. But I also don't leave my house, so it's kind of hard to do that if you're not going out and going places. But I'm definitely working on that.
They definitely don't believe in being not being uncomfortable. That's one thing they're gonna like really hammer home. Okay. Which is like the mindset part was what I really took from that. They really work on your mindset a lot, and they're like, you have to be uncomfortable if you want to succeed,
right?
Which is true.
I have no disregard.
Yeah,
to
but
that.
they will make you feel uncomfortable if need be.
It's like even though we're sitting here, I also feel like I'm talking in front of a whole pile of people. Yeah. So it's like I'm getting more comfortable with that, especially doing YouTube and then doing this. Yeah, I'm looking at my camera, but at the end of the day, I'm talking to people. Yep. Like people may or may not be listening to me, so it is working on that. But physically getting up in front of a whole pile of people,
it's different when you can see.
It's just like it's different, but I'll get there.
I mean, so the easiest way for me with pitching was when I hit 1,000. No, I hit 1,500 when I was in Ignite. When I hit 1,500, I started like figuring out what that number actually looked like. 1,500 people was like, it's like a grandstand.
Yeah.
So I was just like, oh, I can get up and talk in front of 30. Like for me, I had to make that switch. And I was just like, oh yeah, cool. I could talk in front of 30 people, especially 30 people that everyone there wants to see you succeed. That's the bottom line, which is like what I had to learn towards the end, because I was like, why does it matter if I show up to these things? And I was like, it's because you want to see me succeed. And at the end, I was like, okay, yes, you're right. I need to do better. I'm not, but I need to, because there are some of them I just couldn't. I wasn't in the right headspace. I couldn't make it. Like business things popped up. But yeah.
All right. Anything you want to talk about that we haven't spoken about?
Nah, I'm good. This was a good conversation.
All right. Any questions for me?
What were you looking forward to going into Ignite? Because like we touched on it, but like
okay. So for me, it's definitely the networking. Getting me around more people that I could potentially interview for my for the podcast, and then potentially people that I can sell my clothing brand to as well. Because when it comes to my clothing brand, I want to be a distributor. I don't want to physically do stuff. So like how you have on your blank t-shirt, you can wear my blank t-shirt and then put your logo on it.
Right.
That's the goal for my for that. So but I did it as the podcast, because I know the podcast can grow a lot faster than my clothing brand. And then if I can grow my podcast, I can grow an audience, a community of people that support me, support what I'm doing. So when I do want to say, hey, you have a clothing brand, here's product you can use, I have a community that wants to support me.
100%.
So right now it's just building a community of people that want to support me, support other melanated individuals that are out there doing things. It doesn't even matter what you're doing at this point. Like, I'm not limiting myself just to entrepreneurs anymore when it comes to the podcast. So if you're Black and you're doing something, let's talk. Because at the end of the day, there's someone out there that looks like us that wants to learn, how can I do this in life? And that's the whole point of my podcast, is bridging that gap of information, like, you know. So ultimately I just want to learn the systems that I can put in place. I do have a few systems, but I feel like I'll get more in-depth systems, and that could work in any sort of business. So that's what I'm looking forward to get out of
you'll definitely get all of that. If you can implement systems and there's any sort of analytics to your business, Ignite will help you. But if you're selling a service, because you're not selling a service, you're selling a product and you're selling a personality to a certain extent. Or no, you're selling a vision. Actually, I wouldn't even say you're selling a vision of like what somebody can look up to. That is much easier to market than Dion the creative. Because if you don't like Dion, you're not gonna like Dion the creative.
You're
but
right.
if you can pull on like, oh, like it's Satira, but you can also pull on, oh, it's Dion, oh, it's Ryan, it's whoever,
right?
Yeah, you can like, it's that makes it easier to sell, because it's not just you.
Yeah, that is true. Any other questions for me?
No, that's it.
All right, so I'm just gonna finish up with the questions that I asked everyone. What advice would you give 18-year-old you about pursuing what you're doing now?
Start at 18. Like, start taking it serious at 18. That's it. Start taking it serious at 18, because I would be in a completely different space. But that's anybody, right?
Right. What advice would you give our listeners on entrepreneurship and being a creative in general, and then being a creative in Bermuda? Because I know that's a whole different.
So actually, no, it's the same for me.
Okay.
Just jump into the deep end. Learn to swim. That's how I learned to swim. I got thrown overboard, which is why I think I'm so like okay with it, because I know that I'm not going to die.
Right. That
I'm going to either float or somebody's going to jump in to help me if I really need it. So I'm reckless for that reason. But you have to be reckless, and you have to be reckless and create dangerously, which is what I learned from Calix, which is one of the guys I interviewed for Origin Stories. And like I think I have it. Oh no, I can't find it. It was so good though. Is it this one? Damn. Okay. Can't remember. what it was exactly, but it was basically along the lines like he creates dangerously to show other creatives, especially in Bermuda, that the social norms and what's pushed on us by society doesn't matter to us because it's not our perspective. Like, Bermuda is, yes, majority black, but where's all the money? So if you create, exactly, if you create based on what's going to make you money, it's not going to help us in the long run. So you kind of have to create our perspective and our view, which is dangerous because it means you may not get paid or you may get blacklisted or like all these other things. At least that's the way I interpreted it.
Okay.
So like you have to create what you want to create. So that way there is a lane for it. So yeah, just create dangerously and don't worry about what people are going to think, because if they don't vibe with it, it's not for them.
That's what I'm learning too.
Yep.
Definitely. So what's next for you and Creatively Dion? That is the name of your business, right? Or is it Dion
No,
Creative?
it's Dion the Creative. But
Okay.
I need to. So first is getting it properly registered.
You're not registered yet?
I told you I live dangerous. Yeah.
It's nothing wrong with that, man. It's
Yeah.
all right. You're not the only one.
So getting it properly registered, but also I want to do more storytelling of not only the Black Bermudian experience, but the Black African diaspora. Like the more, so I started working with, this is going to be a little bit long for an ending, but I started working with Community and Cultural Affairs a little bit, doing a couple things for them. And it was their Heartbeats lecture series, which is they tell the stories of different things that happen in Bermuda. But the two I did was Trunk Island, which was they found that Black Bermudians who were boatsmen, who were either slaves or free, would go to this island, and it became like a meeting place for young Black Bermudians, even though there was a white family that owned and lived on the island. But they found a part of it that was like they could kind of carve out as their own. And just like,
where's Trunk Island located?
Middle of Harrington Sound.
Okay.
Yeah. So just learning that story was just like, this is something I never even knew existed. Like I didn't even know Trunk Island existed. So there's
I've heard the name, but I don't know.
I had never heard the name. Didn't even know. So there's that. And then there was Cottage Hospital, which yet again, didn't know existed.
Where was that?
So, you know where Belvin's is on Happy Valley?
Uh-huh.
Right next door, that green building that's always fenced and gated in.
Yes.
That
and it
used
used to be a prison as well.
Yes.
And they stole that from a Black family.
Yes, like all of this, right? There's
Yes.
This was the history that I learned. I was just like, why isn't this something that's more well known? So that's what's next. Learning Bermudian stories and find a way to tell those stories in a way that's going to connect with our generation. Because getting it to hit Gen Z, like if you're a Gen Z and you're listening to this, I'm sorry, it's very hard to connect with you all if it's not in 60 to 90 seconds. So that's also a challenge because I actually like short form content, but these stories need to be long form.
Right, they need to be long.
Yeah. So it's telling those stories, but also how it relates to now. Cottage Hospital is something not many people know about. I didn't know about it. Like,
right, because I've only known of it as a no prison.
Right.
And the reason, I'll tell you a story. The only reason I know about it is because the guy whose family they stole it from, like one of the children or whatever, every once in a while he breaks in and he lives in there. Like he has internet, he has TV, like he has everything in there. And the only, cause he locked himself in there one day, so it was like a whole barrack, police.
Yeah.
And they had me sitting there in the ambulance for like 7 hours because he was threatening with freaking Clorox. It was Clorox or what's that thing that erodes stuff? What's that chemical called?
I know what you're talking about.
I can't. It, like basically for acid.
Yes.
He was threatening with acid, so they had us sitting there, and it was like, and then I was talking with my coworkers, like, well, what is this place? Like, what happened? And he was telling me the story, like, yeah, the government stole this from a family, and that's technically his property, but he would never get it back, basically.
Yeah. So,
and it's just sitting there.
Yep.
These people.
Yeah. So like telling those stories, like stories that need to be told, and why they're important in today's age, right? Because there's a call to do something with what is now being claimed as a cottage hospital, which was run by predominantly black nurses who were learning to become nurses before the hospital merged and we got KEMH.
Okay.
So there's also a black element to it, which is why at one point the family didn't care because it was helping black people.
Right.
But then when the college hospital phased out, they're like, well, hey, can we get our shit back?
Right.
Right. So yeah, so it's like telling those stories, but then also a lot of Bermudians don't know where they come from.
Most definitely, I can definitely agree to that.
Yeah,
because like just not only where we come from, but the history of our island. Because I feel like that.
I'm talking even before that.
Okay.
Because there's no such thing as a Bermudian, right?
Yeah, because we all came in from somewhere.
Exactly.
Okay, I see what you mean. So my family's from St. Kitts.
Same with mine.
I knew that.
Yeah, I know the town we came from. So my great grandmother, either 3 or 4 greats, came from Sandy Point, St. Kitts.
Okay.
And everyone, so my mom, not my nana, my mom, her sister, so my mom's aunt, and my granny, who's passed, have all been down there and met our family there. But we haven't been since my mom when she was 18.
Okay.
So we haven't been in like 20, 25 years. I've never been.
Wow.
So that's what I really want to do. I want to create a documentary of going through that process.
That's awesome.
But of also plotting my whole family tree on
That's
that
awesome.
side. Because my dad's side it's going to take much longer.
Yeah, that's interesting that you say that because my granny was born in St. Kitts.
Oh, okay.
So she's that generation of St. Kitts. I don't know about my grandpa because he never really talks about it. Well, or talked about it, I should say. But my granny was born in St. Kitts, and then she moved here like as a child, and then like I think she's like of the oldest. So all of her siblings were born here, and she still has family that's there. So I think when I was like 5 or 6, they had a family reunion in St. Kitts. So I've been there.
But
of an age that I don't remember. I just have a picture getting on a plane. That's all. That's the only thing that I have to say. And then me with someone's dog or something like that, and that's it. But I know that my family is from there. My mom went there a few years back, and she stayed. She was there like for the entire summer. She just stayed with our family. And like what's crazy is like someone in my family, because I don't know the exact like my cousin, uncle, whatever. But he was like he's the prime minister down there. Like like it's crazy to think like that was crazy to know that my family is in power in another country.
Yeah,
like that to me was crazy. And then they came here, so I met them when they came here. That was about 4 or 5 years ago, but still, it's crazy like that we don't know our history, and it's sad, but it's the reality of things. Some things not getting passed on generation to generation, and it's only getting worse.
Yeah.
Especially like the meanings behind our holidays. That's a big one.
We can sit
there
here and talk for a whole nother hour because we'll talk about that off camera because I have radical views about holidays, so I'm not going to put that out in public. But yeah, like when learning that we were from St. Kitts, because I always knew, but it wasn't until after my granny passed away that I like sat down and was like, okay, well, somebody tell me about this because she's the one who knew everything, right. And then she passed away, so now there's pockets of stuff that's missing. So now I want to go and get those pockets. That way we have it as a family, but also to show other people like, oh, hey, like it's not that hard to figure out where your family came from. Right. So yeah.
That's cool. So I just think it's 2 more questions. What would you say to your future self 5 years from now?
Surprise me as much as I want to help and share a Bermuda story, you better not be here. I better have made it to a point where I come home like I'm either splitting my time between here and everywhere in the world, hopefully, or here and a home base somewhere else. Yeah, but don't still be here full time. I'll fight myself in 5 years.
Lastly, where do you see yourself in your business in 5 years' time?
I don't want to say travel storytelling, but that's the only way I can think to describe it. Okay. Because history travel storytelling, just sharing the black experience. That's really what's starting to that's where I'm really starting to be pulled to. Like it wasn't until I did this last creative meetup where literally everyone there was black, and love him to death, but sometimes he just doesn't get it, and I've noticed that now. And he's even noticed it. He's like, yeah, but it wasn't until I was literally surrounded by nobody but black people, and I was just like, oh my god, this is what I've been missing, and that's what's really started to motivate me.
Okay.
So like just having that shared experience, that shared understanding without having to say it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. One last question.
Mm-hmm.
Next year, I'm just keep saying next year. In 2023, at some point, I'm taking 3 months off to go to Africa.
Funnily enough, I might also be in Africa in 2023. I think Maxanne, she's the marketing manager I'm working with at Take 5.
Mm-hmm.
She plans trips as like that's her passion.
Okay.
But she just came back from Ghana last month, like sometime in September. She came back from Ghana, and their tour guide, literally hit her up and was like, "So since you've been posting this stuff, I've had so many influx of like requests from Bermudians that we need to plan a trip." So she now is like, "Cool, if this is going to happen, then we need to find a way to get you out there for December." So I think that's the plan
for December of
2023.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think I've always wanted to go to Africa anyways. I know my heritage because I did the ancestry DNA.
Okay.
So I know I'm like mostly Nigerian.
Okay.
So Ghana has always been on my list because my auntie's been there and she said it was amazing. But I'm more interested in Nigeria. But I know once I get there, I go, okay, cool, this is kind of what it's like, and then I can plan my Nigeria trip, or I can just be like, okay, cool, I'm with you guys for a week, and then you guys can leave. I'm going to Nigeria, sort of thing.
Okay.
But yeah, that's yes. When you go, if I'm in the position to go, I'm there.
Because I was literally because I think I spoke about it the last time we spoke. It's like I want to go and I want to take someone that does photography, videography with me. Like I'll pay for you to get there, and everything, but everything else, like. Yeah, it has to be a fair intake, like because I can pay for you to get there, but I can't pay for everything. Like I can't pay for your services as well. Exactly. But would that be something you'd be interested
that's
in
kind
doing?
of the route that Max wants to go. It's like, look, I'll make sure when you're there, you're covered. But then the trade is, you give me I give you service. Right. So I was like, yeah, cool, that's fine. Okay. If I don't have to worry about anything, I can literally just worry about doing what I love. Right. Then I'm golden. If I don't even have to bring money for food, sold 100%. And food over there is cheap and it's good from what she's told me.
Yo, I heard it. Dion's coming with me to Africa in 2023.
As long as we're in the right space, I'm there.
Amen to that. All right. Yeah. Well, thank you for your time today. I really appreciate you coming through.
I'm glad we can get this done properly now.
Yes, most definitely. Yeah. Anything else? Shoot. No, what's the word? Tell people where they can find you.
Oh, so Instagram mainly. I'm starting to grow the YouTube. I have so Instagram at Dion the Creative, YouTube also the same name, Dion the Creative. I'm on TikTok, but mainly to consume. So if you have funny things to send it to me on TikTok, Dion the Creative. I'm starting to get into Twitter. Are you big on Twitter? Do you use it a lot?
I'm not big on social media, but I do use Twitter a lot.
See, I can't get into it.
I can't even say I use it a lot. I used to use it a lot because, like, last year I just took 6 months of like no social media. So for me, like right now, I have everything on like a timer, so I only have a certain amount of time.
I need to start doing
and stuff like that. So I am on Twitter, but I haven't been. Yeah. But I need to get back on it because the way that I'm going with my social media profile, I need to stop putting up more tweets. Yeah. So I have more stuff to put on my Instagram.
Yeah. But yeah, so I'm literally everywhere Dion the Creative. Like it's nice. I'm nice and branded. That's the other thing that Ignite told me is brand yourself very easily so people don't have to search. Yeah.
All right. Thank you for coming through.